The Forest of Whispers Part 2, the battle begins. The sun rose the next morning, casting long shadows through the Forest of Whispers. But instead of the usual peaceful rustling of leaves, there was an air of tension. The animals had spent the night preparing. Their once tranquil home was now a hive of activity as they worked together to face the machines that threatened their very existence. Oakley, the wise old owl, circled high above the treetops, watching the invaders inch closer. From up there, he could see the enormous machines, towering giants with long metal arms and saws that gleamed in the morning light. The machines moved slowly, but their destructive power was undeniable. Already, large swaths of the forest had been reduced to stumps and fallen branches. The sight filled Oakley with sorrow, but also resolve. "They're coming!" Oakley hooted as he flew down to the clearing where his friends were gathered. "We don't have much time." Bramble, the mischievous squirrel, darted back and forth, making sure every animal knew their role. "We're ready, Oakley. The trees are our allies, and we'll use them to slow the machines down." Hazel, the gentle deer, stood tall among the animals, her fawns hiding behind her legs. Though soft-spoken, her eyes shone with determination. "The other animals are ready too. We'll use every bit of the forest to defend our home." And Benny the beaver stood proudly beside a large dam he had constructed at the narrowest part of the river. "I've made this dam strong enough to hold back the river, but when the time is right, we'll release the water. The machines won't know what hit them." The plan was simple: delay, divert, and defend. Each animal had a role to play. The squirrels would leap from tree to tree, dropping nuts and twigs to confuse the machines. The birds would fly in flocks, creating distractions in the skies. The larger animals, like the bears and deer, would create blockades with fallen logs and branches. And when the time was right, Benny would unleash the river's powerful current to flood the machine's path. As the machines rumbled closer, the animals took their positions. Bramble scampered up a tall oak tree, watching with keen eyes. "Here they come!" he squeaked. "It's time to show them what we're made of." The first machine rolled into the clearing, its massive claws slicing through the underbrush. But as it reached the edge of the forest, the squirrels sprang into action. Dozens of them darted through the treetops, dropping acorns and sticks onto the machine's giant wheels. The machine's driver, hidden inside the metal behemoth, struggled to maneuver as the small objects jammed its gears. "Good work, Bramble," Oakley called from above. "Keep them confused." But the machines weren't stopping. More of them approached, their engines roaring louder than the animals had ever heard. Hazel and the deer led the smaller creatures to safety, while the bears and wolves used their strength to topple dead trees across the machine's path. It slowed the machines, but still they pressed on, relentless in their mission to cut down the forest. "We can't hold them off much longer," Hazel cried, her voice trembling as she saw another tree fall. Benny, standing by the riverbank, looked up at Oakley, who gave a nod. "Now!" Oakley called out. With a swift slap of his tail, Benny broke open the dam. The river, once calm and meandering, surged forward in a powerful rush. Water cascaded over the banks, flooding the ground in front of the machines. The machines, built for land, struggled to move through the rising water. Their wheels spun uselessly, and their engines sputtered as the water reached their undercarriages. The animals cheered as they watched the machines grind to a halt. For the first time that day, it seemed like they might actually succeed in defending their home. But then, Oakley noticed something alarming. Behind the first wave of machines, even more were approaching, larger and more powerful than the first. These machines weren't just cutting down trees. They were digging into the ground, preparing to destroy the forest from its roots. "We're not done yet," Oakley said grimly as he flew down to his friends. "There are more coming, bigger ones." The animals, exhausted from their efforts, exchanged worried glances. How could they fight against these new machines, even more destructive than the first? "We've bought ourselves some time," Benny said, his voice steady, "but we need a new plan." Hazel stepped forward, her eyes filled with quiet strength. "The forest has always protected us. Maybe it's time we trust it to help us again." The animals didn't know exactly what Hazel meant, but they had faith in their forest. They had grown up under its canopy, raised their young in its shelter, and found food in its bounty. Perhaps the forest itself held the key to saving their home. "We'll need every creature to come together." Oakley said, his voice carrying a new sense of hope. The trees, the rivers, and the land itself. Together we can stop these machines. But we'll need to dig deep into the forest's ancient roots for help. As the day drew to a close, the animals began to prepare for their final stand. They knew the fight was far from over, but they also knew that the forest was not just a place. It was a living, breathing home that would fight with them. The battle for the Forest of Whispers had only just begun. To be continued. If you want part 3, please like and subscribe. Make the background music curious and hopeful.